Kia ora te iwi, nau mai ki te whare wānanga o ai.
Kia mohio mai koe, e hara mātou I te mātanga, e hara hoki I te tākuta.
Anei mātou e whakapuaki nei I o mātou ngākau, I o mātou whakaaro, hei whakawātea I te ara kōrero,
E te ara wānanga, I tēnei mea, te ai.
Kia manawa nui mai, kia ngākau tūwhera mai ki tēnei kaupapa.
Me te kaumawaru tau te pakeke, me whakae rānei o mātua kia mātakitaki mai koe I tēnei hōtaka. Nau mai, tomo mai ki te whare o ai.
I remember the first time I ever watched porn was with my boyfriend in high school. And then all of a sudden they're having sex. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Everyone was given the task of sculpting their favourite sex position.
Here I am, spread eagle, on the
Okay, never have I ever had sex with multiple people at one time.
Like, what do you mean? Kei aku whakatika ki te rangi, aku whakatamarahi ki te whenua. Nau mai, tomo mai ki te whare o ai. Ai, marika, where the kaupapa kōrero is, of course. Ai! Ka pai, pai pēnā. Now, just to generate a bit of whakaaro, bit of kōrero before we actually dive into the spicy, we're just gonna whakaputa whakaaro. We're gonna play a bit of a game.
Hai.
And the game is... Never have I ever. Okay. Me hangai pū ngā pātai katoa ki tēnei mea, te ai. Ka pai? Nā reira, we're going to start off over here. Omi girl, start us off, Han.
Never have I ever
Oh, okay.
done anal.
Like, what do you mean? Like penetrated or...
Penetrated.
Oh, yeah, okay. No.
Been penetrated or
Been-
penetrated?
Yeah.
Bing.
Been, oh. Yeah.
What? Not been. Not been.
Hey, there was a clarification there.
Oh, does it have to be bean?
Bean.
Oh, like
You put your thumb down if you
Is-
want. No judgment
Put
here,
your
Tony
thumb
boy.
down if you want.
arero counts? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
Okay, never have I ever
Give me something juicy.
been in the mattress room.
Been in the mattress
You know
room.
what I mean?
Ki te mahi.
Aye.
Ka.
Mahi ai.
Oh, and that's quite common, you know.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
That's
So-
like the Māori story.
So get up here. Kare pono tēnei te pū.
Yeah. Well, let's need to be honest.
Ke te
Yeah.
No, I live in the tāne. We don't go to the marae.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, Stevie girl.
Okay, never have I ever had sex with multiple people at one time.
Oh.
I had to think about that.
Ooh, this one should get some. Never have I ever had sex in a car.
What?
Okay.
Ka, he moinga ki te kainga.
I know.
Ai,
Motoka ki te rori.
Engari ētahi wā,
Moenga.
ētahi wā he tino roa te hoki ngā tiki te kāinga.
Tikata.
Yeah.
He ia oku.
For me personally, I don't prefer it because I wear nui a hoe, so I'm like squashed around. Not that I do it often, it's fun. When it has happened,
Wahi
okay. Okay, never have I ever touched a tara.
Oh.
Put it down, everyone. Come on.
Wait, does
Your own?
Inclusive of
Your own?
Yeah. Just like to clarify, I was a C-section baby, so even
was a
taku
C-section?
putanga, yeah, taku putanga mai ki te ao, ka reo I pā I te tara. Yeah.
Oh yes, never have I ever.
Why are you looking
Never have I ever played with a toy on myself.
Ah. See,
Anei te toa.
And we will take that now as the most experienced
Yes.
of our
Well,
panel.
no, that's five pātai, anaki.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys might-
Exactly. Anake. Koina. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for warming up Te Pae Kōrero. We're now going to get even more heated and we're going to move into confession time. Ooh, yes. Just to start our kōrero off, are we ready? Ka pai, sexual health. Ne? Hokakatanga, sexuality.
Hokakatanga.
Nā reira, e hoa mānau mai ki te ara tika o te hokakatanga. Sexual health, know the risks and how to keep yourself safe, e hoa mā. All right, confession time. Oh, uni was a crazy time in my life. You've already got me. I was very carefree and lived every night like it was my last. Oh, this included sleeping with multiple people in short spaces of time. It's not something I'm proud of, but I own up to. Ka pai, good on you.
Tēnā koe.
Own it. I wish I knew what I know now back then. Cut to the chase. Are we all ready? Let's get to it. I caught genital herpes, but was too ashamed to ask who from, and was also too ashamed to go out and get checked. I Googled it extensively to see how bad it was, so never really went to check. I finally had a heart-to-heart with one of my best friends, and she encouraged me to go and get checked. Get more info on it from a real doctor, not the Uncle Google, and not Google symptoms. It was extremely embarrassing, but I am so glad that I went. I got some pills to relieve the pain and some creams to speed up the recovery. If I knew about these types of STIs before contracting one, I definitely would have been more cautious and definitely used protection every time. I have this virus forever, and it could have been avoided easily. He tūpatotanga mā koutou. Sexual health is so important, and don't listen to them when they say they're clean. Oh. Can I get a ay, ay, ay? Yes, e hoa mā. O tātai whakaro. Kaya wai, mā wai e timata ki ngā whakaro tahu poe, being the most experienced.
Well, as you guys might imagine, I can relate to that type of way of living, tērā type of āhuatanga. I went through a stage in my life where it was similar, sleeping with multiple people in short periods of time, and it makes it hard to remember, like, oh, when did this start itching? Not saying I have. No, yeah, I have. But yeah. So that's where that type of thing, where she said, I wish I knew what I knew now. I wish I knew that, like, I didn't even think chlamydia was real. I grew up in Kirikiriroa, and yeah.
Capital
Yeah, roa te wai, hai ana te kiri, ki reira, mai. That's how they probably got their name. The Tron is tough. So, yeah, with I was never ashamed personally to go to ask for advice. Family planning was a part of our kura. That was something that we could just go to and ask for. So that was something good for me. And I was always checking up because I was always lazy with protection. And not just lazy, it's the feel, eh? We all, like, that's where the sacrifice, you'll, I think, is she clean, or do I want a better feeling than this plastic thing?
Is that real?
100%.
That it
100%. 1,000 times better. And I've heard personal experience that it's better for the wahine as well. So, I don't know with your personal experience, but yeah, that's what it was for me. There was that trade-off with, do I really want to sacrifice the better feeling to risk whether or not I'll get this STD? I don't even know the skill. I don't know anything about her background. And then being young and dumb, full of cum. You just go, you just make the wrong decision because you're not informed on how. I didn't even know chlamydia could be a thing that could affect my herpes. It could affect if I will be able to carry. So that was something I didn't think about being young. And that's something I wish I knew. So I relate to that.
Tika tonu. And I think more important to this confession is around the stigma, I guess, of STIs. And, I think it's one thing to contract, of course, but what's important, what's come from this confession is the lack of knowledge. So I guess, te one, what can contribute to, I guess, that whakaaro and increasing the knowledge and, raising awareness around STIs?
I think it's just remembering that we all at some point will explore. So take the health messages as they're real. They're factual. But do your own research about it too. So I'm glad that she'd done her research and there was she looked into that. Oh, wait. Do we even know if it was a wahine?
We're assuming.
Wow, it's anonymous. Well, no, we can only assume at this stage.
I'm assuming based off what she was provided for her care, that she's a wahine.
Love it. There it is.
So I'm assuming, she may have got some blisters of some kind. But we're mau pukoroure, wear your condom, as much as you can. Like she said, it's viral. It's going to stay with her forever. Viral infection, viral STIs can't be cured, but they can be managed. So for the rest of her life, she'll need to manage that to ensure that she doesn't pop up with any cold sores. So herpes is simplex 2. Cold sores are simplex 1. So if she gets stressed at any point, she might develop a cold sore. And those things all have to be managed and sometimes daily. So, yeah.
Oh my God. And I guess that comes down to, of course, the knowledge around STIs as well. And like she said, if she had known, especially for viral infections, it's there forever. I guess going back to the stigma around what she's had to face in her mahi. What are your whakaaro, CV girl, around what she's had to go through herself and, of course, I guess navigate her own pathway through that? I
think there's like two kind of whakama that she talks about. One, or they talk about. One is the sleeping around with. One is sleeping around with multiple people in a short period of time, and I think often there is a real whakama or stigma on that. When I think if it's something that you're wanting to explore and something that you're happy with, then I don't think there's anything wrong with you exploring and having sexual experiences with multiple people. But I think in terms of this whakama around getting help and reaching out, I think it's something that's kind of embedded in us from maybe from our whānau, from our communities, where it's like, oh, you don't reach out, you don't talk about those kind of things, that's private, or oh, that's embarrassing, that's shame,
That's paru.
Yes,
Paru.
that's paru,
Yeah.
But actually while you're sitting in that whakama and not going out and getting help, you're actually doing yourself a disservice by not, taking care of your tinana, of your body, of your tara or your ure, and needing to I think we as a community need to do what we can do to, break down that whakama so that we all feel more comfortable.
Tika tonu. Are there long-term effects on untreated STIs? So the longer you wait or the longer it's there, the more it can eat away, or I'm not too sure. Eat away at your repros.
So I think one of our scariest, and actually it's been an epidemic since 2012, is syphilis. So many of our STIs can have long-term health, effects. Normally it attacks key organs in our body, sometimes the brain. So with syphilis is one of those ones that you could never get symptoms. You may have it for 2 years, never know. You find out, you start managing it, and it disappears for another few years, but it's still eating away at your body in that time, and it's very hard to detect, very hard to test for. Hence why it's still an epidemic at this time. But yeah.
Wow.
Far out.
Well, pai nei kōrero e hoa mā. Lucky we have some kōrero from our rangatahi around their whakaaro, random foxy. So we'll have a quick little listen, whakarongo as well, to what our rangatahi have to say. Anei, whakarongo mai.
What is sexual health to you?
Being healthy sexually.
It's not just a physical thing where, you go get your checkups, you keep that all good, but it's also who you let into your space.
I think it's just making sure you're all good. If you're gonna, keep
If something
climbing
feels
up.
off, go
Yeah,
and sort it out.
yeah.
I don't know, quote unquote, engari, everyone carries different things, not just physically, but hawairua as well. And if someone's carrying something that you don't really want in your space, don't let them into your space. That's another way of sexual health as well.
Ooh, what do you think the most commonly transmitted STI is?
AIDS.
AIDS.
Yeah.
Is it the infection or the other one, the one that you can cure?
I don't know, STIs.
Oh, yeah. No, neither.
I'm only going to say it because I think it's the only STI I really know. Probably chlamydia.
What about herpes?
Oh yeah, herpes, because herpes, that stays forever,
But
eh?
I heard, yeah, because if it goes away, you come back, it's recurring, you got it for life. Oh.
Ka pēhea tō tiaki I tō hauora.
Well, koe watu agatanga tonu, haere ki te tākuta, haere ki ngā whare paumaru I a koe anō. Getting your regular checkups is so important.
Horoi.
Kua pāra nei ki a koe te mate pai pai. Have you had an STD? So e te whānau.
So, I haven't. No, I haven't had an STI, but I have heard stories.
Te mate pai pai.
Te mate pai
E
pai.
hara, bro. E
You're
hara.
lying.
How important is it for you to build a relationship with someone before you have sex with them?
Very important. In case you get with them and they're crazy. Not a good idea, eh?
Why? Do you know from experience?
No, this is just hearsay, eh?
Very important, I'd say. But perhaps the possibility of a one-night stand is also possible as well.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of leeway to build up a relationship between people.
Pai te whakahoahoa. Engari, ina ko te ai mo te ai noi ho te whai, then hei aha te whakahoahoa, eh? You're not there to whakahoahoa. Engari, moku ake, yeah, I gotta know the person. Kia, it is important to get to know someone, but it's just really what you want to do. Ina ko te whai, ina ko te ai te whai.
Ina ko te ai te whai.
Hei aha te whakahoa. Whaia. Whaia.
I like that. Little kiwaha. Ina ko te ai te whai.
Te ka, mena ko te ai te whai, mahi a tau e pai ai. Kona te kōrero a Ruth. Pai e nā whakaro, pai e nā kōrero. Whakaro, I guess, when we look at sexual health, our professional here te one, what are your whakaro from what those rangatai have had to share? Because there was a mixture of knowledge, but a whole lot of lack of knowledge as well.
Yes.
So let's hear it from the professional.
Yeah, I think when it comes to sexual health, because we all know when we were at rangatahi, we didn't get the opportunity that is now present amongst our kura, and that's out there for our rangatahi. When we think about sexual health, we need to know that it's tinana, wairua, hinengaro, it's all of it.
Whare
Our whare
tapa
tapa, you know? Because if we think about when someone has, te wai piritata, when they're having sex, when they do, you're sharing your wairua with someone. So it's funny that they talk about, doesn't matter if you have to get to know the person before, not if it's just for, one night stand. But if you're looking for someone for a long time, then that's very important. You need to know that you share that same energy, and you guys are both on the same waka. But yeah, testing, like they said, very good. Practice twice a year. twice a year testing, unless you're sleeping with multiple partners or you're changing sexual partners, then get tested as you go. I heard the boys trying to differentiate HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
So HIV is a viral infection, AIDS is a disease. So HIV can lead to AIDS. Once we get to AIDS, there's no going back. There's no cure developed at the moment. However, at HIV, we can manage that. And people can live healthy lives, even so healthy that they don't actually pass the virus on to other people through PEP and PrEP. If you need more info about that. But yeah.
As Māori, we're very holistic.
Yeah.
And one thing I appreciated from our rangatahi talks is actually girls see saying horoi. No, and it's not to horoi the bacteria and everything away, but he mea whakanoa te wai. So, after going through that kind of process, he pai kia whakanoa, kia waireanga, wairua, kua kuhu mai, kua puta mai rānei. I te tinana, ana he mea whakatau i te wairua. But let's be honest, is everyone practicing their post-protection rituals, or what are we doing?
If I have to be quite honest,
honest is all I want.
Due to my mahi at Te Rangatai, I've been there for over nearly 5 years. I learnt quite young how to care for myself and learnt more about sexual health. So my approach to era mea is quite different. And sometimes I only ever get to the, yeah, I'm keen. Right. And then, we'll meet up. And then they're like, oh, how long are you going to be? A block. Why? Because I build myself up and then I start to feel a little bit insecure. And then I'm like, oh, no, that's not my tupuna want. Like, my tupuna don't want me going around doing all of that stuff. Yeah, no, I don't know. These are these things that I think it's because of my exposure to the education around sexual health. I'm very wary of it, and I want to make sure that I do it with someone that I'm going to be able to enjoy for quite a long time. So I don't think I'm looking for any one-night stands. I think I'm ready to settle down and be able to have those pillow talks, so we understand what we like.
Te au mehe o whakaaro, how o mahi whai muri mai I ngā mahi.
Well, because he hoa tāne toku. But it's, he mea nui te tiaki I tērā atu tāngata no mirimai. Don't just say, go get me a towel. Or, help me clean up.
Have the towel ready.
Yeah. Or you go get it yourself. You have legs. So, era mea no mirimai, look after that person. Pirangi waikoe. Did you work hard?
Do you deserve it?
Yeah, do you deserve it? But don't just, at the end of it, don't just say, oh, go get me a towel or something, Say, oh, thanks. At least say thank you. At least say thank you if it's a one-night stand. Don't just...
Gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude. Don't just let them walk out and be like, oh,
good night.
Sure. See you later.
Yeah.
Just be like, oh, thanks. You still got to be nice.
Yeah,
they did you a solid. Did they?
One would hope. Pai ena whakaro e hoa ma. At this moment, we have a bit of a manuhiri with us. Te one, can I get you to introduce our manuhiri o te rangi nei?
Kia ora. So, for our first guest, we have Anna Taula Finau. Tēnā koe, Anna Taula. Ke te pēhea.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Nervous, but I'm excited. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me in the space to kōrero with you all.
Oh, tēnā koe. Thank you for finding time for our wānanga here at You've got me already with the leopard bucket hat and the purple royal seats. Today we're discussing about hokakatanga. So looking into sexual health, we have gathered whakaaro from our rangatahi, what their perspectives are on it, and we've also had time to discuss and dissect what that looks like from our point of view, but of course from our professionals, and that's why we have brought you in today. What are some kind of key points around sexual health health that may be important for our kaimātakitaki?
I think when we are speaking about this topic with our within our community and with our rangatahi, I think it's all about self-reflection first, like really being able to build on self-love and self-respect, knowing what we're worthy of, knowing what we deserve, and then branching out to more of that knowledge base, so like about safety, about consent, about understanding boundaries, not only within yourselves, but with the relationships that you have. And so I think when we talk about sexual health, we're talking about so many other things, not just only associated to the physical act of sex. And I think when we can start branching out to those really important conversations around respect, around consent, around safety, once sex does approach, they have already all these tools that they can touch on. And I think when we're talking about sex too, we forget about the enjoyment. We forget about pleasure, and we forget about feeling good in the experience because, we've got all this different information surrounding it. So really ensuring that when we're talking about sex, it's mana enhancing, it's about safety and respect. So yeah, I'd say like all of those things. I think in this question, it's like you can like just branch out and have like hours on end on what you can talk about. But I'd say like that's really important about having a real strong sense of self and knowing what you deserve, and then being able to collect all those tools and information throughout life.
Speaking of ages and generations, and looking into sexual health and our perspective, our aronga on sexual health, is it different for I guess, rangatahi compared to, of course, older, and we're in the pakeke. Well, 4 of us are in the pakeke section. But are there any differences in perspectives between those generations when it comes to sexual health?
I would say yes and no. I would say that there are a lot of things that are very different, and then there are a lot of things that are really similar. And I would say what's different is that we've changed generationally from like Playboy, bunny type magazines, or restricted areas and Video Easy. I was laughing the other day. I was like, oh my goodness, when I was a kid, I went to Video Easy and they would have a restricted area, and you just knew not to go there. Exactly. And there'd be times I'd like creep past and like kind of peep in and be like, oh, what's in there? And so they were like, we just well, we need that in life, absolutely. And I'd walk past like bookstores. I'm a big book nerd, so I would go to like libraries and bookshops, and I would see restricted areas, and I'd be like, why is that restricted? And so now what we're moving from is that, getting a Playboy magazine from underneath your dad's bed to now kids can literally go and get a tablet or a phone or a laptop or a computer and type in a few keywords and get hundreds of websites with thousands of videos. And so what we're seeing is that kids are having a lot of information about sex so much younger than generations before. And before, generations that are older, they were led by what their cousins and their siblings and, their friends were saying. And now that's still the case. But in adjacent to that, they've also got this new educator that is really unsafe in many cases for our young people, our rangatahi. So I'd say that's probably the biggest difference is the access to information through technology. And that means that those ages of information in regard to understanding what it is gets younger and younger and younger.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. I've absolutely enjoyed the way you've been able to communicate and articulate your thoughts around this kaupapa. I guess just ending us off, how can we follow your mahi, or how can we get involved and seek further mahi from you before we wrap up our kōrero today?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I run a sex positive page on Instagram called Brown Girls Have Sex Too. So anyone who aligns with that title is welcome to join. And there we share a lot of information around sex positive ideas and different positions and how to keep ourselves safe during certain sex positions and just like stuff like that. Like also like a lot of tips for parents and whānau when having that first conversation around sex. So yeah, Brown Girls Have Sex Too. If you want to come on in and ask any questions, it's a safe space, it's private. So so you can find me.
Oh, e te mārai kura tēnā rawa atu koe. O tira koutou i te kāinga, mēnā i hihi ana, koutou ki te whai ana mahi, tēnā whai atu i te whārangi, ka ai hoki ngā wahine prauri. Brown girls have sex too, Hoa ma.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time, e Hoa. We'll let you get back to your day. But aroha nui kia koe. Thank you so much.
Ka kite.
Ka kite
everyone.
Ka kite Hoa ma. All right, team.
Yes.
Whakaro. That was actually quite clear. There was some clear messaging coming through in her kōrero. Tahu boy, o whakaro mō ana whakaro?
There's a lot to take in, personally.
Yeah.
Even though there was clear messaging, it was really hard for me to kind of like grasp one thing because there were so many topics, and that kind of speaks to how hohonu this topic is. You know, there's so many different factors and different branches that you could reach to, and that's something that was eye-opening for me from that kōrero. You know, it's not just this action, it's not just the mental health, it's there's so much factors to it that you have to consider, and that's where you need to kind of do your rangahau a bit more because you really should know a good base of that thing.
And that's quite interesting, especially from her kōrero. How did you take that kōrero, Stevie, in terms of what she had to say? Could you relate?
Yeah, just exactly like what Tahu was saying. Like, there's so much information, and I think that's like what the world is today. You know, there's so much mātauranga out there, and it's constantly evolving, and there's constantly more to be learning and taking in. But I love Tola and the work that she does, and the Brown Girls Have Sex Too page is amazing. And I think it is important that, you know, all of the things that she was talking about, that we are, you know, trying to have these conversations, you know, in our whānau or our friends or our community groups.
Because I think coming from that and it being too heavy, for myself personally, I actually could really connect with what she was saying, and I could actually, I learned quite a bit, and I actually thought it wasn't enough, to be honest. I wanted to seek more. But why I identify that, because I feel like possibly in and amongst how we're sharing this information, is how we're attaining it. And so maybe, I guess, for these types of kōrero, not settling in, of course, with Tahu, you represent our sexual males. So maybe that type of kōrero doesn't necessarily hit with our males, but of course with our more feminine figures, I was right in there. So maybe it is about looking into different ways. We're spreading that messaging so that, of course, the way I can attain information may be different to the way Tahu does. But ultimately what we're wanting to create is everyone understanding and attaining the information. So what are some ways that we can spread that messaging? This is your mahi. Spreading it out to our rangatei. What are the most effective ways to spread these messaging?
I think it's remaining relevant. So like you said, Tahu may not have related to that, so that's why it didn't really sink in. For me, that's mahi, so I'm passionate about sexual reproductive health, so I'm just like, any new learnings for me, I'm just like, oh yeah, mai kite, mai kite. But it's very much staying relevant. So with our rangatahi, making sure that we're not going in and we're sitting down we're standing at the front of the class, and they're sitting down on their chairs, and we're telling them what we're doing. It's sitting with them and having our wānanga, putting questions out, letting those who are confident enough to share. And then we normally get things that one person will go out the gate, gives everyone else in the room the chance to go out the gate as well. So it's about creating that safe space originally. How do we create a space that keeps rangatahi confident and true to themselves? And we normally do that through creating treaties, giving disclaimers, allowing them to have the choice of what they want to learn. So if there's something that's just not for them, then they can up and leave. And then one of us will go and see what's happening, see if we can provide any other information. But key thing is staying relevant. Our rangatahi are different to us. We're still rangatahi. I'm still a rangatahi, just not as tahi as them. But, you know, and making sure that we are looking at those things and looking at what they're interested in. Because our generation is not Every social media app is on their phone. Everything they do is through their phone. If they could, they'll do their doctor's appointments on their phone too. So yeah.
I really like that. And because I hate one-size-fits-all approaches.
Yeah.
Like, because we're not one-size-fits-all. There's so many different... Anyway, yeah, so that's where... Yeah, that's what I like about that. And even, like, for somebody like me, like, if there was a straight-up starter pack, you know, if there was a bullet points of the key points we need to know, you know, as heterosexual men, like with the yays and nays, and pointed out real simple, would be a little bit easier for us to retain, I think, and would ask questions about the ones we really didn't know about. There was something that just came back to me with her kōrero about how kua huri te ao, and we're not looking under our beds, our dad's bed for a thing. These kids are seeing some crazy fucking shit, you know, like porn online's crazy and it's so unrealistic. And like, you know, because I grew up with the first bit of 3G. So, you know, I was sneaking on the phones. I can't wait to be that big now. You're never getting that big fun, okay, these fellas? These all out there. So that's what, like, you know, these unrealistic expectations of mine that weren't met when I first came in. And I was like, oh, heck, how do I get to that status? So it's those type of things as well, where how do you guys kind of make them realize that that's not real?
It's something that we actually struggle with. Sometimes we get looked at a little bit weird when we tell them, oh, it's entertainment. You like Marvel movies? Yeah, he already it's entertainment for adults. Adults know how to differentiate the difference between what's real and what's entertainment or what's not. Rangatahi at their developmental age, they don't have that capacity. So when they see something, they believe it, right? Because that's all they see. If they were shown a video and, you know, normal sizes, then they would think that's normal as well. But they don't see that. Why? Because the porn industry don't want to have NMS.
And I think one key importance around that is your relevancy.
Yeah.
How relevant are you to your audience? And I feel that we have quite a relevant panel here, and that we represent so many different communities. So it's bringing those perspectives in here so that te iwi can wānanga with us. Ne? So yes, koina pia he pātai mā tātou. Hea te huarangi whakamua. What are your whakaaro on where we need to navigate to now?
Well, I think as hard as it wasn't even hard, as crude as my upbringing was with around sexual health, I'm always been grateful for it because I've had a safe space always, you know, like the first time my mum asked me if I had sex yet, would have been about 14, I don't know, and she was like, have you had sex? And I had to say yes, because I never lied to my mum. Good boy. I've tried. And it was, yes, I have. And she says to me, okay, so what did you do to prevent babies, this, that? You know, it wasn't it wasn't like she was angry at me for anything. It was just a question to help me around how to stay safe. And that's probably a thing that I think our reanga will be pretty good with our kids, you know, because we've come through a much more open society compared to their conservative type. So I think it's going to be pretty good for us, for our kids anyway. Yeah. I probably won't be talking to my kid about anal, but...
Kōrero here. Ka pai, any other whakaaro to add on to that?
I think just me pono, me tūturu ngā kōrero ka whāngai ki ngā tamariki, ki ngā pakeke. You know, that's really important. You have to be honest, you have to be truthful about it, you know. Don't sugarcoat it. E hara tēnei kaupapa i te kaupapa me huna mai ngā tamariki. You know, it's going to happen eventually. Might as well do all you can to prevent them getting sick, to prevent early pregnancies if that's what your child wants or needs. Pono. Me tika, me tūturu o kōrero all the time.
The best thing, because you know, even asking another partner, are you on the pool? And you know, you never know with them. So being pono to yourself and using your own protection, taking your own precautions, that's where that is crucial. Because I've had a few lies. You lie.
No, I think ko tera te tūmana ko te kao te rangatai, hei whai huarai pai mō ngā rangatahi o nāianei, hei painga mō tātou katoa, you know. So when we think about the education that we do in the kura, our hopes is that we build that confidence in that reanga so that when they grow up, then they're able to do that for their rangatai, because it's our reanga at the moment that are doing all of this mahi. And we're building our own confidence. It's time for us to share that to our next reanga so that they don't get the generational information that's being passed on, intergenerational information, because, you know, it had its time. But yeah, that time's done now.
It's a kāna. Kia manoa nui, kia whakaro nui. I believe we must be open. We will then be able to enable more conversation, normalising more of this wānanga.
No
Kia
judgment.
tātou, hey, our animals are doing it, our plants are doing it. We as human nature, we're going to be doing it too. Wea no, kia haumaru ne. Nā reira, mihi ana kia tātou I ngā kōrero, I wānanga ai, te take o te rā, koe a ko te hokakatanga. Nā reira, hei kōrero whakamutunga kia tātou, mena ko te ai te aru, kia haumaru. Ka kore hoki he raru. Kia kohia ki te tapu o ngā kōrero, kia whakairihia ki kirunga kia tīna.
Tīna.
Haumi huie.
Tai.
Kia ora mai tātou.